Sutter Jasmine Carter ran through the bustling streets of New York, her heart pounding in sync with the hurried footsteps around her. The morning sun filtered through the skyscrapers, illuminating her determined face. Her mind was fixed on a single goal: to arrive on time for her shift at the upscale restaurant where she worked as a waitress. With her hair pulled into a messy bun and her uniform looking sharp, she resembled a force of nature, even if her body was exhausted from a long night of work. As she entered the restaurant, Jasmine was immediately greeted by the intoxicating aroma of sophisticated dishes and the murmur of lively conversations. She welcomed the customers with a warm smile, but her gaze quickly landed on two figures sitting at a table near the window: Madison Turner and Olivia Brooks, two women from New York's elite. Both were known for their stunning beauty and somewhat untouchable arrogance. Jasmine felt a chill in her stomach, but she took a deep breath, determined not to let it shake her. "Look who just arrived," Madison exclaimed, her words laced with sarcasm. "The new girl in fashion. I hope you brought your designer aura with you, dear." She laughed, with Olivia joining in with a cynical chuckle, her eyes gleaming with contempt. "Yes, I hope you won't serve us in those awful clothes you wear to work," Olivia added, her lips curling into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Dear, you do know you don't belong here, right?" Jasmine felt her skin burn with humiliation, but her resolve did not waver. "Good morning, ladies. What can I get for you today?" she replied, her voice steady and professional. What else could she do? Let their pain bring her down? No, she was stronger than that. As she served the tables, Jasmine tried to ignore the malicious comments that continued to flow from Madison and Olivia. They laughed among themselves, constantly throwing disdainful glances in her direction. "Look, I didn't know it was possible to be so outdated in such a chic place," Madison murmured to Olivia, who let out a loud laugh. Jasmine struggled to maintain her focus on her work. She moved between tables, attending to other customers with a genuine smile, but the sting of Madison and Olivia's words echoed in her mind. Those women weren't just customers. They represented everything she had always tried to avoid: rejection, contempt, and the idea that she wasn't enough. After her shift, Jasmine left the restaurant, the weight of their cruel words still following her. She walked through the illuminated streets, gazing at the windows of high-end stores, each one reflecting what felt like a distant, unattainable world. Upon arriving home, she found her small apartment decorated with her own creations. Sketches of clothing, tangled fabrics, and drafts of ideas were scattered everywhere, reminding her of her true dream: to be a fashion designer. Jasmine sat at her desk, picked up one of her sketches, and stared at it for a long time. She remembered all the hours she had spent drawing, dreaming of the day she could showcase her creations to the world. "I won't let them pull me down," she whispered to herself, the flame of determination rekindling within. "I am more than this. I will make it happen." With that conviction pulsing in her heart, Jasmine began to sketch new ideas, blending modern elegance with the African traditions she admired so much. Every line she drew was a form of resistance, a silent scream against discrimination and oppression. And so, amid the pain and humiliation, she found new energy, a new mission, not just to create fashion, but to tell her story, and that of so many other women who, like her, fought to be heard. Jasmine was determined not to let Madison and Olivia's cruel words define her. Instead, she decided to channel her pain into something productive. That night, as the city lights twinkled outside, she sat at her small work desk, surrounded by rolls of fabric and her fashion sketches. With a spark in her eyes, she looked at the designs, each representing a fragment of her dreams. "Today is the day," she murmured to herself, as she picked up a pencil and began to draw. The next morning, Jasmine woke up early, determination coursing through her veins. She had made a list of materials she needed: vibrant fabrics, sewing threads, and even some accessories that could add a special touch to her creations. With her carefully saved money, she headed to a fabric store in the neighborhood. Upon entering, she was greeted by an attentive salesperson. "Good morning. Can I help you with something?" he asked, smiling. "Hi, I'm looking for colorful fabrics with a good drape. I'm starting a fashion collection," Jasmine replied, her heart racing as she spoke about her dream. "Oh, that's great. We have some amazing options here. What do you have in mind?" the salesperson asked, interested. "I want to mix African styles with a modern twist. Something that represents the strength of Black women," she said, her enthusiasm evident. "That sounds wonderful. Here, take a look at this selection." He showed her a variety of fabrics, and Jasmine quickly spotted a beautiful batik cotton that made her smile. "This is perfect," she exclaimed, already imagining how she could use it in her designs. With the materials in hand, Jasmine returned home and dedicated herself to her work. In the following days, she threw herself wholeheartedly into her collection. With every stitch sewn, every piece created, she felt the pain of humiliation fade, giving way to a new strength. "This is for all of us," she said aloud, as if conversing with those who inspired her. While working, Jasmine began documenting her process on social media. She took photos of her pieces, wrote about her journey, and shared her experiences. "Fashion is a form of expression," she wrote in one of her posts. "Every piece I create is a shout of resistance and empowerment." As the weeks went by, her profile started to gain followers. Messages of support began flooding her inbox. "You are an inspiration, Jasmine. Keep it up," one follower said. "I can't wait to see your creations," another commented. The sense of community forming around her motivated her even more. One day, while checking her social media, Jasmine noticed that one of her posts had gone viral. The number of likes and comments was increasing by the second. "Incredible! Look at this," she exclaimed to her friend who was visiting. "Look how many people are connecting with my story. This is just the beginning, girl. You're about to take off," her friend replied, full of enthusiasm. With the buzz surrounding her, influencers and celebrities began to take notice of Jasmine. Messages of support and positive comments became a constant. Who would have thought a waitress in New York could inspire so many people? She mused. The confidence that was beginning to blossom within her was palpable. And so, amidst sewing and smiles, Jasmine was not just creating a fashion collection. She was weaving a new narrative for her life. A narrative of empowerment, strength, and resilience that was starting to break the barriers that once limited her. She was on the verge of becoming a force to be reckoned with in the fashion industry, and nothing could stop her. Back in her small apartment, surrounded by colorful fabrics, sketches of clothing, and a renewed energy, Jasmine was about to take a crucial step in her journey. Looking at the bulletin board she had set up on the wall, where she collected photos of fashion icons and magazine clippings, Jasmine took a deep breath. It was time to launch her crowdfunding campaign. With her community by her side, she knew she could turn her dream into reality. On the day of the campaign launch, Jasmine organized a simple yet vibrant event at a nearby community center. She decorated the space with her creations and spread informational flyers everywhere. Throughout the afternoon, the room began to fill with friends, family, and neighbors, all curious to learn more about Jasmine's new brand. As adrenaline surged through her, she stepped up to the makeshift stage. "Thank you all for being here today," Jasmine began, her voice firm and clear. "Today I'm not just presenting a collection of clothing. I'm sharing a part of myself, my culture, and the strength of the Black women who have inspired me. Together, we can make a difference." Applause echoed throughout the space, and Jasmine smiled, feeling her community's support wrap around her like a warm embrace. The presentation was followed by a showcase of her creations, each piece more impactful than the last, reflecting the essence of her journey. At the end of the event, Jasmine asked everyone to contribute to the campaign, explaining how every cent would help fund her fashion show. The response was overwhelming. Donations started pouring in, and the campaign quickly gained unexpected momentum. Jasmine could hardly believe the amount of support she was receiving. Among the donors was a local influencer who, upon seeing Jasmine's video, decided to share it on her social media. "This woman is a true inspiration. Let's support Jasmine Carter and her mission," she wrote, accompanied by various hashtags about empowerment and diversity. Meanwhile, at a chic cafe in Manhattan, Madison and Olivia were discussing the latest fashion event they had attended. "I think fashion needs something new, something fresh," Madison said, taking a sip of her coffee. "But who really cares about a waitress's fashion?" "Exactly," Olivia agreed with a sarcastic smile. "They say there's a new designer in town, but I bet it's nothing worth seeing." The two women were completely unaware that the designer in question was Jasmine. They scoffed at the idea that someone like Jasmine could truly impact the fashion world. However, social media was abuzz with talk about the new brand, and Jasmine's name was becoming increasingly well known. At home, Jasmine couldn't contain her excitement. The first post went viral. Messages of encouragement and support flooded her social media, and with that, the pressure mounted. "Now I really need to make this happen," she murmured to herself as she continued to work on her creations. As the days passed, Jasmine found herself surrounded by a new network of support. Women of various ages and backgrounds began to connect with her story. Some were aspiring entrepreneurs. Others were mothers wanting to instill the values of self-acceptance and confidence in their daughters. In one of these gatherings, a middle-aged woman approached Jasmine and said, "You are a leader, dear. You're doing something that many of us dream of doing but haven't because of fear. Keep going." Her words touched Jasmine deeply, and she realized that her struggle was not just about fashion, but about empowerment and representation. With each new supporter, her determination grew. The idea of holding a fashion show became increasingly tangible in Jasmine's mind, and she was ready to showcase the beauty and strength of Black women to the world. Meanwhile, Madison and Olivia continued to discuss the new designer, unaware that their lives would soon intertwine in a way none of them could have predicted. Jasmine, for her part, was on the verge of transforming into a force to be reckoned with, and the fashion industry would never be the same. The big day had finally arrived. Jasmine Carter's fashion show was about to begin, and the atmosphere in the venue was electric. The space, a renovated old warehouse, was filled with bright lights and a diverse audience eager to witness the debut of the new designer on the fashion scene. Backstage, Jasmine was getting dressed in a gown she had created herself, a spectacle of colors and textures that reflected her African heritage and indomitable spirit. She took a deep breath, feeling her heart race. "Are you ready, Jasmine?" asked her friend and business partner Lila as she adjusted the designer's hair. "Everyone is waiting for you out there." "Yes, I'm ready," Jasmine replied with a nervous smile. "This is more than just a fashion show. It's my chance to show the world who I am and what I stand for." As the lights dimmed in the room, the murmurs of the audience turned into an expectant silence. Jasmine knew the moment she had always dreamed of was about to become a reality. She looked at the familiar, excited faces of friends and supporters in the back and felt a wave of gratitude. She was about to step onto the runway, and her heart pulsed with determination. When the lights came back on, Jasmine took a step forward. The music began to play, and with each beat she felt more confident. She walked gracefully down the runway, her eyes sparkling with the emotion of the moment. The first creations were revealed, a mix of vibrant prints and modern cuts that captured the essence of the strength and beauty of Black women. Applause began to echo, and Jasmine felt the power of her story resonate with every heartbeat of the audience. "Look at this," whispered a famous influencer in the front row, clapping her hands. "She is absolutely killing it." As Jasmine moved down the runway, her thoughts drifted back to Madison and Olivia. The two women who had belittled her were somewhere in the audience, and she could almost feel their critical gaze on her work. It was as if the past was unfolding before her, but now the cards were on the table. The bright lights reflected off the clothes she had created, and Jasmine paused in the center of the runway, looking out at the crowd. The music faded, and she decided this was the right moment to share her voice. With a microphone in hand, she began to speak, her voice strong and clear. "Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasmine Carter, and this show represents the strength and resilience of Black women. Every piece you see today is a celebration of our history, our struggles, and our beauty." The audience erupted in enthusiastic applause, and Jasmine continued, her spirit ignited. "Throughout my life, I have faced humiliation and challenges, but I have also found strength in my community and my culture. Today, I am not here just to showcase fashion, but to show that we, Black women, have a place in the fashion industry and anywhere we want to be." The applause grew even louder, and Jasmine felt tears of emotion welling in her eyes. She looked out at the audience and saw Madison and Olivia, their faces showing shock. The disdain she once felt now transformed into a sense of power. With a confident smile, Jasmine concluded her presentation. "Thank you all for being here and for supporting change. Let's continue fighting for a more inclusive and beautiful world for everyone." The runway exploded in applause and cheers of encouragement, echoing in her ears. Jasmine raised her arms in celebration, knowing that despite everything she had been through, her dream had become a reality. And more importantly, she had turned her pain into a powerful force that would inspire other women to do the same. The atmosphere of the show was electric. The bright lights reflected off each of Jasmine's creations, creating a spectacle of colors and textures that mesmerized the audience. At the heart of the event, Jasmine, in a stunning dress she had designed herself, felt her heart racing like never before. The audience was filled with familiar faces, including Madison and Olivia, who were seated in their luxurious chairs, surrounded by the glamour of the fashion world they had always embraced. But that night, everything was about to change. As Jasmine stepped onto the stage, the murmurs of the crowd transformed into enthusiastic applause. She took a deep breath, feeling the vibrant energy around her. The lights dimmed, and a respectful silence fell over the space. With the beat of the music echoing in her ears, Jasmine began her walk down the runway with firm steps and a confident posture. Each step she took was a statement of her journey, a celebration of her identity. "I am here," she thought as the lights illuminated her face. She was no longer the invisible waitress, but a recognized designer, ready to claim her space and her voice. Finally, the moment to speak arrived. Jasmine stopped at the center of the runway, her heart pounding as the audience turned their attention to her, intrigued and eager. "Good evening, everyone," she began, her voice firm echoing through the room. "Today, I am not just here to showcase clothes, but to share a story. The story of many women who, like me, have faced discrimination and disdain for being who they are." Jasmine's words resonated in the room, and she saw attentive faces, some with tears in their eyes. Madison and Olivia, who had once laughed at the young woman, were now silent, absorbing the impact of her words. Jasmine continued, her voice gaining strength. "Being a black woman in a world that often does not see us is a challenge, but we are not here to be invisible. We are here to shine." The audience erupted in applause and cheers of support. Jasmine felt a wave of emotion, but also a renewed determination. "I created this collection not just to express myself, but to celebrate the strength of each of us. Every piece here represents a story, a struggle, a victory." As she spoke, her eyes met Madison's, who looked visibly shaken. The expression of disdain that had once dominated her face had now transformed into something more complex, something close to shame. Olivia, on the other hand, tried to maintain her composure, but her tension was palpable. Jasmine smiled at them, not with anger, but with a new understanding. "And I want you, women who saw me as inferior, to understand that true strength lies in supporting each other. We no longer need to diminish ourselves to shine." The audience rose to their feet in applause, and Jasmine felt a surge of positive energy. After her speech, the music began to play again, and the models walked confidently down the runway, showcasing the creations Jasmine had dedicated months of her life to. The audience was in ecstasy, and the scene was a true spectacle of empowerment. But while the euphoria enveloped the venue, Jasmine couldn't ignore Madison's expression. Approaching her, she said, "You can change, Madison. We all can. Fashion can be a space of inclusion, not exclusion." Madison seemed lost in thought. I didn't know. I never understood what you went through. I'm so sorry." Her voice was filled with genuine emotion. "It's time to start anew," Jasmine replied, her gaze compy. "Let's move forward together instead of apart. There's room for all of us." However, Olivia, just a few steps away, couldn't hide her indignation. "This isn't fair. You can't just dismiss everything we've built." Her voice was filled with frustration and anger. Jasmine looked at her, the calm in her heart making her stronger. "Olivia, the time for competition is over. What matters now is change. If you can't see that, maybe you're the only one losing." And so, as the night came to a close, Jasmine was surrounded by applause and celebrations, but also by the promise of a future where unity and inclusion would prevail. In that moment, she was not just a fashion designer, but a symbol of resistance and transformation. Jasmine was in her studio, surrounded by colorful fabrics and sketches of her creations, when the phone rang. It was an unknown number, but with adrenaline still high from the show, she decided to answer. On the other end of the line, a hesitant and anxious voice said, "Hi, Jasmine. It's me, Madison. Do you have a moment?" Jasmine hesitated, recalling the cruel words Madison and Olivia had whispered during her time at the restaurant. "What do you want, Madison?" she replied, trying to keep her calm, but her voice betrayed the resentment she still felt. I just wanted to say that I'm impressed with the fashion show." "You really nailed it," Madison said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm so sorry for what happened before. I didn't know what it was like to be you." Jasmine felt a wave of conflicting emotions. "You don't know what it's like to be me? Just a day ago you were laughing at me in front of your friends. What changed, Madison?" Frustration was palpable, and Jasmine wasn't willing to give an easy chance. "I know, and I'm sorry. I was wrong. After seeing your show and hearing your speech, I realized how ignorant I was. You're doing something so important and I want to help. Please let me be a part of this," Madison pleaded, her sincerity sounding genuine. But Jasmine remained skeptical. "And why should I trust you now? You and Olivia have always been on the opposite side. What's changed in you? Jasmine asked, her voice firm and challenging. I don't know if I deserve your forgiveness, but I'm willing to learn. I want to use what I know about the fashion industry to help women like you. You don't have to do this alone, Madison replied, her voice now softer, almost vulnerable. Jasmine sighed, realizing that the conversation could be an opportunity, but she still felt hesitant. You have to understand that it's not just about fashion for me. It's about creating a space where women like us can thrive. I don't want to be just another piece in a game that you know well. This is real for me. I understand, and that's why I want to be honest. What I did was horrible, and I want to make amends. If you give me a chance, I promise I won't let you down, Madison said, almost pleading. After a long silence, Jasmine decided it was time to take a step towards something new. Okay, you can join me, but on one condition. You have to be willing to listen and learn and not put me in a box. The fashion industry needs changes, and I won't let you turn it into a parade of egos. Thank you, I promise I'll do my best, Madison exclaimed, relieved. As Jasmine hung up the phone, her heart was heavy with uncertainty. She knew that this new alliance could be risky, but it could also be an important step toward building something meaningful. Doubts still lingered, but the idea of collaboration and change motivated her. Meanwhile, in a different corner of the city, Olivia was far from happy with Jasmine's success. Since the fashion show, she had grown increasingly bitter, watching social media and the growing support Jasmine received. Anger bubbled inside her, and the thought of losing her status in society. She sat in her room, surrounded by fashion magazines and news clippings, deciding she needed to do something. She can't just rise like this as if I don't exist. I won't allow this girl to overshadow me, she muttered to herself, her eyes shining with determination. Olivia began to plot. If anyone is going to be the queen, it's me. Jasmine doesn't deserve this kind of attention. I'll find a way to unmask her, to show the world she's nothing but a waitress who got lucky. Fury consumed her, and she knew she needed to act quickly. Olivia made a list of ways to discredit Jasmine, but before proceeding, she felt a pang of doubt. What if Madison really joins her? I need to think of something smarter. The thought of losing control over the situation made her even more restless. As Jasmine began to open herself up to the idea of working with Madison, the tension between the women was just starting to intensify. The twists were about to unfold, and the battle for acceptance in the fashion industry was becoming a personal battleground. Jasmine gazed out at the horizon from her small studio, the lights of New York twinkling under the night's darkness. The fashion show had been a resounding success, but the euphoria quickly gave way to a growing concern. The fashion world was unpredictable, and success attracted not only admirers but also envious rivals. Among them was Olivia, who, after being humiliated at the show, was consumed by anger and frustration. At that moment, Olivia was at home, surrounded by fabric samples and sketches of designs she dreamed of creating. However, her mind was far from fashion. She can't just take all of this, she murmured to herself, rolling her eyes at the thought of Jasmine. I won't let a waitress become a fashion icon. Her plan began to take shape, a cunning idea that promised to restore her status. If she can do this, so can I, Olivia thought, as she sketched out a plan to discredit Jasmine. She decided that if she could spread rumors about the origin of Jasmine's brand, she could tarnish her image and steal away the attention that the designer had gained. Meanwhile, Jasmine was in a meeting with other black women who had faced similar challenges in the fashion industry. We need to unite, Jasmine said, looking into each of their eyes. We can't let a single person or story define our journey. What we're doing is more than fashion. It's empowerment. The women around her nodded in agreement. Yes, we need a strong collective that represents our voices, replied Maya, a stylist who had struggled to gain recognition. Together we can make some noise and ensure our stories are heard. Let's create a space where we can support each other, suggested Amina, a photographer who captured the beauty of black culture. We can use our skills to show the world what we're capable of. The energy in the room was palpable. Jasmine knew that unity was key to facing what lay ahead. And what if Olivia tries to discredit us? One of the participants asked, uncertainty in her voice. What if she tries to divide us? Jasmine took a deep breath. That will only make us stronger. Let's create something so incredible that they won't be able to ignore us. We will be the voice that no one can silence. The next day, Olivia began to put her plan into action. She met with a few journalists who were interested in stories about the fashion industry. "You wouldn't believe the story behind this girl, would you?" She began with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "She may look like a designer now, but it's all a facade. I've heard rumors that she's not as talented as everyone thinks." The journalists, intrigued, started asking questions. "What do you mean by that?" one of them inquired, curious. "She seems to have put on quite a show." "It's all a front," Olivia replied, her voice laced with disdain. "Her success is just a product of the media. She doesn't know much about fashion. She just got lucky." Jasmine, on the other hand, was in her workshop, sewing a new piece for her collection. As she worked, her phone buzzed with a notification. News about the alleged scam was starting to circulate on social media. How could this be happening, she wondered, feeling the weight of anxiety in her chest. "I can't let this bring me down." Determined, Jasmine called an emergency meeting with her collective. "We need to come together now more than ever," she said, conveying the seriousness of the situation. "Olivia is trying to destabilize us, but if we stick together, we can face this head-on." The women around her were resolute. "We won't let this happen. We need to show the world who we really are," said Amina, the photographer, passionately. "Let's gather on social media, share our stories, showcase our work and what we've built together," suggested Maya. "Let's reveal the truth." And so, while Olivia tried to sabotage her brand, Jasmine and her collective prepared for a different battle, one that was not just about fashion but about dignity, empowerment, and the strength that comes from unity. Madison Turner sat in her luxurious office, surrounded by sparkling jewelry and designer clothing, but none of those things seemed to bring. The image of Jasmine's triumphant runway show still echoed in her mind, and the image of the young designer on the catwalk wouldn't leave her thoughts. She felt uncomfortable, as if a shadow had settled in her heart. What had happened to her? How could she have underestimated someone who had now become a source of inspiration? With a deep sigh, Madison picked up her journal, a habit she had abandoned years ago, and began to write. "Why do I feel this way?" she questioned. "What's wrong with me?" The words flowed like a catharsis, and she found herself revisiting memories from her childhood when she learned that her status in society made her superior to many. "I never wanted to be this way," she thought as tears streamed down her face. "I just wanted to be accepted." Meanwhile, Jasmine was at a panel on diversity and inclusion at a fashion college. She felt nervous, but also excited. The room was filled with young people eager to hear her story. As she stepped onto the stage, she looked at the audience, a sea of hopeful and curious faces. "Thank you for being here," she began, her voice resonating with authenticity. "Today, I'm not just here to talk about fashion, but about representation and the importance of each of us finding our voice." One of the students raised their hand. "Jasmine, how did you feel when you faced discrimination in the fashion industry?" She took a deep breath, recalling Madison's and Olivia's cruel words. "At first, it was painful. I felt invisible and unworthy. But I realized that the pain I felt could turn into motivation. I wanted to show the world that fashion is a form of expression, and that we all have our stories. And I wanted my story to be told." The audience fell silent, absorbing every word. Jasmine continued. "When I decided to create my brand, it wasn't just about clothes. It was about giving a voice to a community that is often overlooked. And I hope that each of you, when you leave here, remembers that your voice matters." Meanwhile, Madison, still in her office, reflected on what she had heard. "Maybe I've lost sight of what really matters," she thought. She decided she needed to reconnect with the essence of being human, not just elite. "I want to help," she murmured to herself, picking up the phone and calling a childhood friend who worked on social issues. "Hi, Carol. I'm thinking about getting involved in something bigger than just fashion, something that really makes a difference," Madison said, her voice trembling. She listened as Carol spoke about a project that helped marginalized women find their voices and skills in the fashion industry. "Can you include me? I want to help create opportunities." Carol smiled on the other end of the line. "Absolutely, Madison. Your experience can be invaluable. Let's meet and discuss this." Meanwhile, at the panel, Jasmine noticed that the audience was fully engaged. At the end of her talk, she received a wave of applause. "If you can, remember that change starts with each of us. Don't let yourself be silenced. Fight for what is right," she concluded, with a sparkle in her eyes. A student stood up and asked, "Jasmine, do you have any doubts about your future now that you've achieved so much success?" She smiled, a smile that reflected her journey. "Yes, I have many doubts, but what really matters is that I know my struggle is not just mine. It belongs to all of us, and I will keep fighting for those who still don't have a voice." The panel ended, and Jasmine left the stage feeling renewed. She had not only inspired the young people present but also reaffirmed her purpose. Madison, on the other hand, was on a path of rediscovery, determined to transform and rewrite her own narrative, while Olivia, in her corner, fumed with resentment, unaware that changes were about to happen at a rapid pace. Jasmine was in her studio, a small yet vibrant space filled with colorful fabrics and design sketches on the walls. After months of hard work and overcoming obstacles, she decided it was time to give back to the community that had supported her on her journey. With a smile on her face, she looked at her friend and fellow fighter, Aisha, who was also there to help organize the charity event. "Let's do something truly impactful, Aisha. I want young black women to feel they have a place in the fashion industry, just as I feel now," said Jasmine, while adjusting a dress on a mannequin. "Absolutely, Jasmine. We can raise funds for fashion programs while showcasing the talent of these girls. This is going to be amazing," replied Aisha, full of enthusiasm. The two began to plan the event, discussing details like the venue, invitations, and attractions. They wanted it to be a celebration not just of fashion, but of the strength and resilience of women facing challenges similar to Jasmine's. "Let's invite some of the influencers who've joined us. They can help promote it and bring more visibility," suggested Aisha, jotting down ideas in a notebook. "And we need a fashion show. Showcasing these young women's clothes will be essential." "Yes, a show that tells their stories. Each piece can come with a testimony, something that represents their struggles and achievements," Jasmine added, imagining how this could inspire other girls. The day of the event had arrived, and the space was buzzing with energy. The walls were adorned with creations from various young designers who were more nervous than excited. Jasmine made it a point to talk to each of them, encouraging them to feel proud of their work. "Are you ready to shine today, Maya? Remember, your story is just as important as your clothes," Jasmine said to a young girl who was trembling with anxiety. "Thank you, Jasmine. I just want people to see what I'm capable of," Maya replied, her eyes shining with determination. When the event began, Jasmine took the stage to thank everyone for attending. The room was filled with familiar faces, including Madison, who had decided to show up to support the new cause. Jasmine noticed her presence and felt a mix of emotions but chose to ignore any lingering resentment. "Today, we are here to celebrate the strength and creativity of black women. Each of us has a story to tell, and it's time to let those stories shine," Jasmine began, her voice resonating with passion. The audience applauded as she spoke, feeling the connection she had created with everyone there. The fashion show was a success. Each young designer showcased their creations, and the stories accompanying the clothes touched everyone's hearts. Jasmine watched from the side of the runway, her heart overflowing with pride. The girls were shining, and with every applause, their confidence grew. "This is just the beginning, girls. You are changing the narrative," Jasmine shouted, raising her arms in celebration. After the show, the fundraising event kicked off. Donations started pouring in, and Jasmine felt they were building. The young designers were being recognized, and the atmosphere was one of pure joy and celebration. Madison approached Jasmine hesitantly. "Hi, Jasmine. I just wanted to congratulate you on all of this. It's really inspiring to see how you're helping these girls," she said with a sincere look. "Thank you, Madison. It's a constant struggle, but it's rewarding. I hope you can truly join us, not just as support, but as an ally," Jasmine replied, keeping her mind open. "I want to. I really do. Can we work together to help more girls have a voice?" Madison asked, her tone more serious now. Jasmine smiled, realizing that even those who had once underestimated her could eventually become allies. And so, at the center of an event celebrating female strength, a new union was emerging, ready to challenge norms and promote inclusion in the fashion industry. During a fashion event filled with celebrities and influencers, tension hung in the air. Jasmine was radiant in her new collection, which blended vibrant colors and patterns inspired by African culture. The venue was decorated with flowers and twinkling lights, reflecting the new era she was creating in the industry. While the audience applauded her creations, Olivia was preparing to unleash a cruel attack. The room was buzzing with animated murmurs when Olivia, with a forced smile, stood up from her seat. She looked around, noting the attention she was receiving, and decided this was the perfect moment to undermine Jasmine. With a loud, clear voice, she addressed the audience. "Do you really think this woman can represent fashion? She's just a waitress who got lucky. Don't be fooled." The murmurs stopped. Jasmine, who was on stage, felt her heart race. Indignation began to boil within her. But before she could react, Madison, who was among the audience, abruptly stood up. Her face was flushed with anger and embarrassment. "Olivia, you can't be serious. Jasmine has worked so hard to get here. You know how much she has faced to realize this dream." Olivia, in her arrogance, did not back down. "And I say this is all a farce. Jasmine, you don't deserve to be here, it's just pretense," she shouted, her cutting words echoing through the room. Madison stepped closer to the stage, her posture determined. "If you think you can belittle someone else's talent to feel better, you're very mistaken. Jasmine isn't just a waitress. She's an incredible designer who is changing the narrative of fashion, and I won't let you humiliate her any longer." The audience began to murmur, and Jasmine felt a wave of support wash over her. She took a deep breath, trying to find the courage to speak. "Olivia, your words come from a place of insecurity. I am much more than your limited view. Every piece I've created has a story, a struggle, and I won't allow you to undermine that." Olivia, realizing her strategy was failing, tried to maintain an air of disdain, but the audience's gaze was already shifting. People were rising, supporting Jasmine with applause and shouts of encouragement. "We support you, Jasmine," someone shouted, and soon everyone was clapping. With the pressure mounting, Olivia realized she was losing control. "This isn't over. You may have your 15 minutes of fame, but I will make sure everyone knows who you really are." Her voice was laden with resentment. Madison cut in, now furious. "And you? What are you really? Someone who hides behind lies and contempt? The world is changing, and you need to keep up or you'll be left behind." The truth began to emerge, and Jasmine felt a renewed sense of strength. "Olivia, if you want to fight, do it fairly. I don't need to belittle anyone to shine. What I've built is real, and I will keep fighting for all the women who haven't had the same opportunity." When the press conference began, Jasmine was more confident than ever. The room was filled with journalists eager to hear her story. "I want to announce that my next clothing line will be dedicated to helping marginalized women. All profits will go to fashion programs that offer opportunities for young women like me, because each of us deserves a chance to shine regardless of our circumstances." The room erupted in applause. Jasmine looked out at the audience, now with tears in her eyes. "Let's unite and transform this industry. It's not just about fashion, it's about inclusion and empowerment. Together we are stronger." Olivia, isolated and desperate, realized her time was running out. The community was rallying around Jasmine, and she, finally, had lost control. Madison's transformation into a strong ally of Jasmine was proof that change was possible. As the press conference concluded, Jasmine felt that her journey was just beginning. She had turned her pain into strength, and now she was ready to shape a bright and inclusive future for all women. "Of course, please provide the text you would like me to translate, and I'll be happy to assist you." "Sure. Please provide the text you would like me to translate."